Well, after about 3 days horsing around with the post office and going down there, and they spent a while digging around, they found my package of shock absorbers. So these are the closest I could find that would fit the motorcycle. They came from Brisbane, Australia. So I went around, and I plugged the back light in just to make sure the brake light worked here, and I plugged in my switch and pulled on it, and the brake light didn't work with this. Is for the rear brake. So I ordered a new one of these. This is bad. I tested it with an ohm meter, and that will be coming probably in the next. It's coming from Indonesia. It's an actual correct Honda part number and everything. So that might be a few weeks out. All right, let's get this opened up and see what these things look like. Jet bike spares. I think their info's on there. That's where I got the shock absorbers from. So these, the only thing that I think that's really going to be obvious is the spring is chrome on these, and the spring on the original one's black. Get one of the original ones here. And the spring is just slightly bigger around, not by much. It should fit, hopefully. It says they did. Alright, so these shocks don't fit. They hit the muffler. The spring's too big around. So maybe what I'll do is, seeing the shock looks about the same, I think I'll just change the spring. That spring, this is not really much bigger around, and I think that'll be okay if it's a little bigger. And the top part looks like this is, the spring is overhanging it quite a bit, so I think I might be able to make these work by just changing the spring over. So here's the deal. The springs off the old shocks work on the new shocks. I just gotta take the top. Well, this ring won't fit down here. The spring fits down here, and this is what was down here on the bottom, and I'll put that back on the bottom. That actually fits in the spring like that on the original spring. And this is what goes. There's two springs on this original shock, and this is what the spacer in between. That was the top. This is the top to that shock. This is the top to that, to this shock. So we're going to just swap out the springs, and I painted the springs. This spring is substantially bigger around and just hits the exhaust pipe right here. And we can't have that. And plus, I'd rather have the black springs anyway. I think it would look a little nicer. And these shocks have exactly the same amount of travel. They're essentially the same shock. This one, this part of it down here is a little bit, you can see from here to here. This one's just a smidge longer, but not enough to, I mean, they were stated that they fit the I think the 73 to 78 or 70, whatever years they made the XL175, it stated that it fits them. And other than the spring hits the muffler, it does fit the bike. They both fit, you know, they fit both sides. So we'll get the springs painted up and at them and get them installed. And this is the toolkit for the motorcycle. I had to break it out to get this out. This is what you adjust the shock absorber tension with. And I slackened these ones off so I could just push the spring down with my hand and pulled this out on both shocks, but I had to turn them to their softest position. You can set the shocks for different spring tensions. And so let's get this thing finished. I'll get the other shock apart and get those springs painted, and we'll get the thing together here. Spark plug. So this toolkit comes with a 14, a 17 open end, I'll clean these up while they're out, 12 and a 10 open end, a 19 box end, spark plug socket, pair of pliers, an 8mm with, this is so that you can put this in the screwdriver so you can get a little more torque, the screwdriver handle, and again the shock absorber thing with the extension that also works on that. So there you go, that's the toolkit from the XL175 if anyone's interested. And like I said, I'm going to clean all this up, seeing it's out, and maybe wipe it down with some WD-40 or oil or something so they don't get cruddy again. That is the bigger of the pair of springs on the original shocks, and that is the shorter of the one. I think they'll look nice with new paint on them and black and chrome. Kind of looking forward to getting the shocks on, then I can get the rear wheel on. Alright, I got these off the other shocks so I can get them cleaned up and painted up. These are the old shocks, and they're pretty worn. They have some dampening left, but not a lot. If anyone knows anyone that can rebuild these, leave a comment or something. I wouldn't mind having the originals rebuilt and reinstall them. You know, they're welded together there, but who knows, somebody may be able to refurbish them. Like I say, if anyone knows of somebody that refurbishes them or, you know, rebuilds them so the innards are like new again. You can see this one was leaking. This one wasn't really leaking. This one has more dampening than this one. But yeah, I would like to get those rebuilt if somebody knows where it's possible to have it done. The tools from the Honda toolkit cleaned up pretty nice. These are just like stamped out of sheet metal tools, but doggone it, when you're out on the trail you need a tool, these actually work pretty good. I think these ones are cast, but they do the job. I mean, you know, they're alright for what they are, you know, just cheap tools, you know, for emergencies. And you can see that still has the Honda Motors logo on it. And I polished up the bolts that hold the shock absorbers on. Hope I'm not getting too far ahead of myself, but I installed the chain guard because the one shock absorber is held on with this that's on the chain guard. And I put this one on too. So yeah, it's moving along. Just wait for the paint to dry on the springs and we'll get the shocks on. So I got this on. This is what keeps the brake backing plate from twisting when you apply the brakes. That's attached to the suspension right there, so it moves with it. And then this attaches, so this isn't pivoting or moving anything. That attaches to right there, keeps that from twisting. And I got the brake rod on. It's just kind of, it'll, you know, go down in there maybe. but I just wanted to get it in place so when the tire goes on it doesn't interfere with putting this stuff in. And then I'll put the pedal on after I get this all hooked up, and then I can get an idea where this is going to be, you know, to make the pedal level. One other thing too was the taillight bulb. The bright part worked, but the dim, so it was fried. So I ordered a box of, I think these are 1154s. They're 6 volt. The 1157s are 12 and the 1154s are 6. So I'm going to start cleaning this stuff up so I can reinstall it. This is the plastic polish I use. I got this originally, you know, I used to flip cars a lot, and you'd get the instrument panel plastic would be all messed up from people using Windex or, you know, solvents to clean the plastic, kind of make it milky or scratched up. And this would clean it up to where it would look like glass again, you know, to where it would just be really clear. And just cleaning this fender just for a couple of minutes has brought the shine back out in it. But that's what I use. I use this for plastic. Now I might go get my drill with a little buffer on it and speed the process up. I'm just doing it by hand now, and just doing it by hand, there's a significant improvement in the shine of the fender. Seeing that I'm putting a new roller chain on, I thought I'd put the new sprocket on. So that's the NOS sprocket. The old sprocket, really nothing wrong with it. I compared the two, and yeah, I couldn't see any. It has no wear on it whatsoever. The front sprocket did have some wear on it, but I think that the rear sprocket and the chain had been replaced in the past. I don't think the engine sprocket had ever been changed. So both the sprockets will be new and the chain will be new. Got another present, and I believe this is the cables to the charger for the lithium battery. And that's what we have here. So that's what you need if you use their charger and have a 6-volt battery. And basically what it is one of these connectors plugs into the battery and the other into the charger. And then I think there's a longer one for if you want, you know, to leave one wire on the bike all the time. That's the one that goes to the battery, and this one goes to the charger. And then there's this cable's like an extension cable, so that goes to the charger, and then this connects to here, and then you have a big long cable. So I think that'll work out pretty good. I don't think I'll leave this on the bike. I don't see any sense in it for as often as I'm going to need to charge it. And when I do, I'll probably take the battery out to charge it. And I thought I'd give this battery for the motorcycle a little charge because I've been running the electrical on it and running it down, and I want to do, you know, make sure the signals and all the lights and everything work. So we're going to give it a charge up. And I think we'll push charge. Thought I would just show this just so you can kind of see what the different lights on the charger mean. That means that it is actively charging. You can see that or not if it shows up, but it is blinking green. So as you saw when I tried this shock on the motorcycle, it did not fit. The spring hit the exhaust pipe. I think I showed that. And I want to put it on here. And this doesn't fit up in there either. I actually had to grind those tabs down a little bit. But it hits the exhaust pipe here, right there. And nowhere near fitting in. So in order to solve that problem, I took the springs off the original shocks, which were about the same tension, and put them on the new shocks. And they're exactly, the original shocks and the new shocks are exactly the same eye to eye. This travel is the same. The only difference is this shock is bigger around than the original. I'll show. I don't know if that really shows up or not, but that shock is smaller around. These were between the springs, and these easily fit over this shock, but do not fit over this one. Doesn't even fit over the eye, let alone the shock. So I just cut a piece of rubber and put between the springs, and I think this will do the job. I think this will be alright on the bike. It dampens nicely. It's going to be the same strength as what was on there because it's original springs, and like I say, from there to there is the same distance. I'm just going to tighten it back up here after I get it on. Definitely not an OEM shock. It actually looks okay on there. I think it'll do the job. Just needs to dampen the ride. And I think you can see it clears the exhaust probably by about a ½ inch or so. And I think my battery's done charging. It's beeping away there. Status light is steady green. That means the battery is charged 100%. If you charge it in the store mode, it charges it to 80%. That's where you should keep lithium batteries, stored about 80%, and in a refrigerator when you're storing them long term. Shock number 2 done. I just took a Sharpie and painted that washer with it, the rubber piece of rubber. This is the rubber I used, so it doesn't stand out so bad. It looks pretty good. I think I'll Sharpie the other rubber one too. They're both on. It looks pretty darn good. I'm happy with it. I painted the little rubber washer on that one with a Sharpie too, just so it doesn't stand out like a sore thumb. But that looks, you know, as close to factory original as I'm gonna find without getting factory original or having the originals rebuilt. They haven't made the shocks for those things, been obsolete for decades, so finding good rear shocks NOS or used is almost impossible. So we just adapted a new pair and they look pretty darn good. Everything clears the exhaust, and once the wheels on, this pivots up. I think those even go back, but it's clearing the muffler. And like I see, these are exactly where the original shocks used to sit. The wheel is on. Got to put the chain on and whatnot, but yeah, got that. Getting it close. I got to get the chain on, get the chain adjusted, then I'll put the brake pedal on and adjust the brake. Put the O-ring chain on, and it fits really good too. It looks nice on there. It doesn't hit anything. It's a 520 pitch, I think. But yeah, nice. And it's just adjusted, like, I don't know if those little ticks show up or not on the frame, but there's little ticks on the frame, and then there's a notch on that, and you make both sides even so so you don't dog track, so your wheel's nice and straight. But we got new chain, new sprockets, new shocks. This bike has needed rear shock absorbers for a long time, so that's going to be nice. I'm going to put this cover back on and maybe hook the brake pedal up and adjust the rear brake. And I didn't torque this or put the cotter pin in it yet because I want to sit on the bike to adjust the chain. I got the brake pedal on too. Feels pretty good. I'm waiting on the switch. The switch mounts there. And then that little spring goes down to a little groove right in. I don't know if that shows up in there or not. But there's a little thing down in there. There, you can just see it there. And that pulls the switch, turns on the stoplight. And that's where the wiring connects up. And then these are for where the wiring from the switch goes through to keep it from melting on the exhaust. Yeah, my table is starting to lack parts. I got the speedometer. I got to fix that little trip meter thing. Put the signals on. I'm going to put this on here in a minute. Clean up the mirrors, put them on, get this buffed, all this buffed, this cleaned up. And that's a turn signal flasher because I don't know if the one on there is any good or not. So I got a new flasher for the turn signals. So at last, it's finally sitting on its wheels again. All right, I'm going to call it a day, and when I get time, I'll get the fender and buffed out and the signals and mirrors and seat and side covers and get all that stuff reattached. And I might undo these. One, I was just sitting on the frame here, and it's a little stiff, so I had them set midway on the original shocks, and I set them to the stiffest on these shocks. And I think I gotta take it one step back down here. There's little steps so you can adjust how much spring tension you have on them, and I think they're just a little too strong right now. The front forks feel perfect. Yeah, I just put the covers and the seat on just for the heck of it and see how the shocks feel. The shocks were a little stiff all the way up, and I turned them down one click and they're still a little stiff, so I turned them to the halfway point, the middle one, which is where the original ones were and where these ones were, you know, these ones with the big springs were set when I got them, and that actually seems to be pretty good. Really actually like the feel of it there. And I also was sitting on it to adjust the chain. It, you know, it looks a little loose right now, but when you sit on it, it tightens up. So we'll get that adjusted up and the clutch and everything all adjusted up. In the next couple of weeks, we'll get it running and do that. I want to get the fender and all the light and turn signals and the mirrors and speedometer and stuff back on it. So I still got, you know, a couple more, 2 or 3 more days of putzing around with it. I just work on it an hour or 2 or 3 here and there as I have time. And it's looking really, really good. Hit the like button if you enjoyed my video. If you enjoy my channel, please subscribe, and thank you for watching.